Hey, what's up, YouTube? I was looking at the rectus muscles and I was having a hard time understanding some of their motions and effects. And so I kind of looked into it a little bit more and I found a kind of a simpler system than what I'd found in most textbooks. Because most textbooks kind of neglect two important facts I'm going to show you guys, if you'll just bear with me for a second. So first we're going to look at the rectus muscles, the four of those being the superior, inferior, medial, and lateral. And then we're going to look at the oblique muscles, and I'll show you guys how you can easily understand this. And one of the reasons why I feel like I could never really understand this is because I could never draw a model of how these actions work. And so with these figures, you can actually draw these and quickly show what the action of each muscle is. So the first fact that's usually neglected with respect to these muscles is that the common tendinous ring lies quite medial to where the axis of the eye is. So if this eyeball is looking at you, here's the pupil, as you can see, the common tendinous ring is quite a bit medial to that point if you were to draw two lines straight back into both of these. Now, you'll notice that I have this sort of wheel that's around the eyeball, and this is basically the wheel that's the rectus muscles acts through, the axis through which those muscles act, almost on the same plane. But one thing you'll notice is that this wheel, in a sense, is turned off of the axis of the eye, where this white one in the middle would represent the axis of the eye. This wheel, where the vectors of action of these muscles act, is off that axis. For this reason, the pupil is going to move along a path in a similar fashion as this axis. So you could essentially picture this same wheel here, except a smaller one here, just medial to that, through which the pupil is going to move. Now, because the eye is going to move along this axis, you can also see with the indication of this red line here that there's going to be a little bit of rotation of that pupil. So in the superior rectus case, you can see it's going to rotate a little bit to the medial, whereas in the inferior rectus case, it's going to rotate a little bit towards the lateral. Now this provides a stark contrast to the lateral and medial rectus case, where you can see that these muscles coming off of the common tendinous ring would insert here right on this axis of the eye and be moving through in a fashion that is along this axis. So for the superior rectus, you can see that swung off. The lateral and medial, it's right on that axis. And so all it does is it shifts the pupil through that axis of motion to the medial or lateral with no turning of this eye, as you can see indicated with this red line here. Alright, so that's those muscles, so you can quickly and easily see the direction of movement. So the superior rectus is going to be medial and superior with a little bit of a rotation of the eye. The inferior rectus is going to cause a inferior rotation with a little bit of a medial pull. And that's again due to the common tendinous ring location. Now, with the obliques, we have a similar situation, but different in some regards. The first thing that's not quite made a big deal enough, I think, when people are learning this, is that the superior oblique is inserted quite a bit off of the central axis. So here's the central axis of the eye I've drawn with this line. You can see the superior oblique is inserted just quite a bit off that axis. So right around here in this region would be the sort of wheel of motion through which this muscle is going to pull, and it's going to be downwards, as you can see with this arrow, downwards. And so contrast that with the superior and inferior rectus. You could see through this central axis, this kind of wheel of motion is going right through it, whereas with the superior oblique, it's right off to the center. And so you have the action also causing a rotation along the central axis of the eye, in addition to rolling the eye through this sort of virtual cylinder. So while you are going to see a sort of rotation similar to these lines of motion here, so you can see I've drawn the pupil here and it's moving along this sort of cylinder of motion, you're also going to see that the superior oblique has a strong ability to laterally rotate the iris, and so I added this a little bit further out from this sort of wheel of motion that I've drawn. So the important fact being insertion off of the central axis quite a bit, enough to cause serious lateral rotation. So what is the action of the superior oblique? It causes lateral and inferior movement of the iris, and also causes a rotation. And whereas in this case these do move laterally, the power of superior oblique is a bit higher to do this, or these move medial, and the superior oblique has quite a bit of power to move lateral as compared to these and their ability to move the iris medial. Now the inferior oblique is quite simple because we've already seen something quite similar, and that was the superior oblique. So with the superior or the inferior oblique, we have a similar sort of cylinder of rolling the eye. So in this case, the inferior oblique would be sort of this far right line, where the insertion would be somewhere back here. And similarly, this is quite a bit off of the central axis, of the eyeball. And so for this reason, the inferior oblique is going to be said to have also a strong ability to rotate the eye towards the medial portion. So the iris is going to move not only along this cylinder of motion that I've indicated and sort of extrapolated to the lateral side of the eye, but it's also going to move quite seriously to the lateral position. And similar to all the other muscles except for these medial and lateral rectus, there's going to be some rotation of the eye. So in this case, you can see the inferior oblique would cause a lateral or a counterclockwise rotation of the iris, in addition to its two other principal actions, that being superior and lateral rotation of the iris. All right, so I hope that really clarifies it for you guys. If you guys have any suggestions about this or any comments, I'd really love to hear them. If the video helped you at all, hit like and check out some of the other videos on my channel. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers. Have a good day.